As you can see, everything is all fully assembled. Brand new. Anyway, things are going well here. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to install our oil pump screen pickup, our oil filter adapter, and then we'll put the oil pan and timing cover and camshaft in next. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is install our oil pump. And this is the new oil pump. What I've already done here is I've installed the new plastic neoprene bushing that comes with the oil pump kit. And this is used to hold on your oil pump shaft, which is driven by the distributor. Actually hooks up to this and spins the oil pump. So anyway, we've installed the bushing on here. Next thing to do is to actually push this part of the bushing, line up the slot and push this in, and you'll hear it pop into place. And what I like to do is spin it and hold the bushing so it'll rotate the bushing to a place where it's not weak, where the thing just spun through. So just for a little added strength. But that's about all there is to that. So next we're going to oil prime the pump. And I like to put a little oil in there, or actually assembly lube, just to wet the gears so it'll give that first initial suction when I go to prime the engine. So we're going to prime the oil pump first though. See, all it's doing is simply pouring some oil in here. In this case, assembly lube. You don't have to fill it up, just enough to wet the gears. And I'll just rotate it around a little bit and you'll hear it make little sounds and you'll know it's getting spread around in there. So that should be good enough. Alright, now that we've primed the oil pump, we're going to go ahead and install it. Oil pump shaft to go right through this hole. And it lines up with the little alignment dowels on the oil pump, which is very easy to figure out. It sits right on there like that. Now if you remember, I told you earlier about the oil pump bolt. Now this is the oil pump bolt, which looks just like one of the cylinder head bolts, one of the short ones, but it's a little bit longer. So you are pretty much want to keep this separated from the other bolts, or else you can make a big mistake. So just like the rod bolts, I like to put a little bit of thread sealer on this, just on the end. And we'll put it right into the oil pump hole. Tighten that sucker by hand. We're going to tighten this oil pump to 45 foot-pounds. And that's that. So that's all locked into place. Next we're going to take our brand new oil pump screen, which I always use a new one. You never know what kind of junk is going to get sucked up in here and may have been in the old one, even though you cleaned it. This is a very cheap insurance investment you can do. So anyway, this should fit right into your oil pump. It's going to be a tight fit. And usually I like to put it just right in like this, see if it'll tap in and get started. And now that it's started, a little better what we've done here. We've tightened the oil pump bolt and we're getting the oil pump screen. What we want to do is actually make this a flat surface, because our oil pump pan is going to be flat right here. So first of all, we'll get it started, and then we'll take our punch, get it started on either side of it as it's going in. Now I'm going to take my tape measure and I'm going to tape the depth of my oil pan here. So anyway, on this particular screen, we want to be almost exactly level and flat right here. This is pretty much a setup deal where we don't have to measure it. We have it flat, we have a stock oil pan. It's going to be right there. So we're going to tap this in. That is not going to come out. Some people actually weld them on there for safety, but that one's on there and it's on there good. Now if you're running a special oil pan or oversized oil pan, you're going to need to measure your distance from your screen to your block and the depth of the pan, and make sure you set it up right. You don't want to be sucking air like that. So anyway, so this is all set up the way we want it. Everything's fastened down. Next we're going to put on the camshaft and timing set. Well, the next thing we're going to do is install our timing gear. And today we're going to use a double roller timing chain and gear set. So basically what we're going to do is install this onto the snout of the crankshaft, and when we line things up, we're going to line up to this little dot right here. It's going to line up to the timing mark on our cam gear, and everything will be lined up just like it's supposed to be. So we'll go ahead and this should get started by hand a little bit there. Fits right on it. Just make sure when you're putting this on, your timing mark is showing outside. If you put it on backwards, you're not going to see that, and it's also going to throw your timing off. So there is a front and a back of this gear. So I usually like to tap around the edges of it. Make it go on evenly. It's very important that you make sure it goes all the way on and buttons up tight here, or else your timing chain isn't going to line up straight. Alright, you can tell that's all the way on. Actually making a different sound when you hit it. So that's on there secure. So next I'm going to turn the crankshaft to my timing mark is facing straight down. And that's about it right there. We're going to install our camshaft, and what I've done is I've temporarily installed the new cam gear with one bolt, and I didn't tighten it. I tightened it by hand. So we have a way to hold on to this camshaft while we're installing it. That'll prevent banging it around and damaging it. And also I've put some assembly lube on all the journals around here, and it's a good idea to get some good assembly lube, and most of your cam kits will come with lube to put on it, and just put it all around each lobe. That way you don't run it dry. That first start up is real important to not run it dry, so make sure that you have your lube on here. And remember, we put some grease on all of our cam journals inside there before we started building this engine, so we got that part taken care of. Alright, anyways, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hold it with one finger in the middle and by the cam gear here, and just kind of align it in. Try to see what's straight, and just slowly slide it in, one bearing at a time, very gently. And I always recommend using brand new camshafts. Regrind cams aren't really the best thing. They are a little cheaper, but they don't last as long. And get one more journal to go, and we'll be in there. There it is. Okay. So you shouldn't have to fight it in. It should go right in. And I'm going to spin it here to line up my timing marks. As you can see, our timing marks are lined up straight up. One there and one there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the cam gear, put the timing chain on, and we'll put it back on and tighten everything up. And that part will be taken care of. Just, you got to make sure you line up your dots there, especially on your Chevy. Simple as that. Alright, well, now that we got everything lined up, what we're going to do is install our timing chain. Here's the timing chain. We take off our one temporary bolt and just slide the gear right off the cam. As long as you don't spin and rotate the cam, you're going to be fine. It's going to go right on. So we'll hook that up. Get your links all lined up straight. I usually like to hang the gear like this so your timing mark is straight up. And just line it up with your other gear. And if you did it right, it's going to go right on your cam gear. Just like so. Simple as that. So the next thing I like to do is we're always going to use the Loctite on all these little bolts. Just a little drop on each thread will be fine. Just like that. These are very important bolts and you don't dare want these to fall off either. This will ruin your whole engine. It doesn't happen often, but this stuff doesn't cost much. It's well worth the extra insurance. So we got those started. And again, you want to tighten these equally, a little bit at a time, because they're going to have to go on straight. Okay, those are all snug, and how I do it is I put them snug, and then maybe another eighth a turn. Not very big bolts, and they'll be easy to break, so probably about 25 pounds torque. So we've got that all set up correctly, and then what you want to do is also check again, make sure your lines are lined up right, and they are. So we've got our timing set installed. Also, after you're done installing the timing chain set, you want to double check your alignment, which is the side view like this, and to make sure we have a straight line going straight down from here to here. That's probably a better view right there. And make sure your alignment's straight, because if you don't have this gear on or this gear on properly, you're going to have a crooked chain. It's going to go out that way or in that way. This is perfectly straight the way we want, so we know that job is done right. Alright, next step here in our process. Okay, we've got our timing set installed correctly. I put a little coating of some RTV black, ultra black silicone, which is Permatex brand. I find that to be the best stuff to use. Anyways, I put that on and installed my gasket. Put a small coating of silicone also on my timing cover, the inside of my timing cover, and make sure you clean all the old gasket off of there. This one's been hot tanked, so it's pretty darn clean. And right before I do this and put this on, I am going to put a little bit of lubricant on this oil chain. I'm going to put a little bit of lubricant on this timing chain, because again, we don't want to run it dry, but I'm not going to put too much so it drips all the way past the bottom. So we'll just put a little bit on there, and by the time I install this timing chain, the remnants will come down and lube the whole chain. But anyway, we'll get this put on real quick. And again, I had all my bolts hot tanked at the machine shop, so everything's clean and just like new again. Sometimes that hot tank stains it a little and it looks a little rusty, but good coat of paint to cover that up. So we'll get all our timing bolts. So we'll get all our timing cover bolts put in here, and we'll be ready to install the oil pan next. The trick to doing your timing cover and your oil pan bolts is to start all of them by hand before you begin to tighten them. Because sometimes there's a real tight fit, and if you tighten one, that's going to misalign some of the other holes. So you always want to start all of them, then go around and tighten them a little bit at a time until you get them all snugged down and sealed. Actually, I like to go around and smash a little extra silicone that's hanging out into the corners there, just to be sure that everything's sealed up. So anyways, now we're going to lay our oil pan gasket, and we have to double check our front oil pan seal, because these Chevys do have two different types that they can use, and I always like to take a dry run and put the seal on there and lay the oil pan on and make sure it fits before I silicone anything down. So we're going to check that out next.